No, this has to do with the lake. Why don't I have? And we're on? We're on. Yay. Okay. Call to order, and we're going to reintroduce ourselves. I'm Sherry French.
Jean Lucina.
Ben Coffin.
Zach Calorio.
Jason Reapy.
And I'm Maxine Pruitt.
Okay. Number 2, discussion and possible action on the Logan County Soccer Club Association agreement and request for enhancements to the soccer fields. Now what?
I'll just give you a little bit, a brief. We have had a wonderful relationship with the Guthrie, the Logan County Soccer Association over the years, and we had something come up in the last couple of weeks that we just really weren't sure what to do with, and I thought they asked for one thing when in fact they had asked for something else. So rather than to get a little bit of confusion going here, I thought it was best that we just bring it to you all and let the Soccer Association tell you what they need, and we'll go from there. And that way we'll all know we're on the same page. And I think we have Laurel Davis, and I don't know the other gentleman's name. No? Oh, okay. So Laurel, you're going to address this, please.
There will be another gentleman that joins me. He's running a little bit late. His name is Michael Tierhurst.
Say your name again.
Laurel Davis, Laurel. I am the registrar for the Logan County Soccer Club. I've been with the club for a little over 7 years. Been in soccer for a long, long time, much longer than that. And the club has improved greatly over the 7 years that I've been there. The only thing that hasn't improved is the fields. When I say the fields haven't improved is we don't have the ability to grow a playing field. It is quite tedious, mostly because we don't have any water. We don't have enough water to be able to reach down to the fields where we need to be able to water to be able to grow. Those fields have been played on since 1978. They are packed really hard. The ground is extremely, extremely hard. So it's hard to get grassroot to take because it can only go so far. So we purchased a chemical from a farming company that you spray on the ground, and it allows for the root to get in there deeper. The other problem that we have is that the fields are very unlevel because they've been played on for so long. The U10 field is in front of the concession stand, and when I say U10, that means under 10, children who are under the age of 10 will play on that field. And the concession stand is here, so if you go to the farthest corner away, that's the highest point of that field. We had that field recently lasered to see what it would take to fix it. If you go to this corner of the field, it's a foot lower than here. If you come to this corner of the field, it's almost 2 feet lower. If you go to this corner over here, it's 3.5 feet lower than this corner. The field plays, everybody plays here because that's where the ball is going to go. Yeah. Sorry. So the U7 field had been played on for so long that the last time my team played on it, they're U9 now, so they were U7 then. I think that's when we shut it down, was when they went to be U8. But there was nothing, there's no goalies in that age group, and so there was nothing between the ball and my player, and he shot the ball towards the goal right on the ground, and as it's going towards the goal, it shoots straight up in the air and off the other direction because there's just so much divots and hills and craziness in the field. So we also got, had bad luck with the tornado, and we lost everything. Luckily, the city helped us replace our bleachers and our building and those kinds of things so that we could get back on our feet. The Oklahoma Soccer Association purchased us a paint machine, that kind of thing, so that we could get back up and going. When that happened, our container, who holds all of our stuff, rolled across the U8 field, creating giant divots in the U8 field. So we took the top layer off, put down new topsoil, put down new grass, leveled it, the whole 9 yards, and now we actually have a playing field on the U8, which is level, it's good, but the problem is it won't hold grass. So the grass gets played on, its root is not deep enough, so it will not, because we can't water it for one thing. So it will not stay, so then we get large patches where the grass is gone. And so then the ground starts to get divoted again because the children are running over it and so forth. So if we had water, which is our main goal, is the reason why I'm here today. If we had water, we could use the ability to redo the fields, re-level them, put everything down, use that stuff to allow the roots to grow better, because it's a 1.5-year process of doing it every 3 months. And then all of that expense is placed upon the club to rebuild all of these fields. And then on top of that, put the grass down that will grow, and that will allow for the playing field to be correct for the children and also for it to stay and not get torn away. So that's our goal at the moment, is to obtain water. So we asked Maxine if we could have some water. What we would like to have done is, the current meter that we have is a 3/4 inch, and it provides water to the concession stand and to the bathrooms. And when I spoke to Charles, When I spoke to Charles, he came out and visited with me at the fields, and we discussed putting in a 2-inch main, which would sit next to the main we currently have that's 3/4. That 2-inch main, at first, before our board meeting on Monday, we discussed running it straight down the middle of the U10 field. Just go ahead and dig up the U10 field, put the pipe in, and bring it out to the middle of the fields, because have you been to the soccer fields ever? Okay.
Long time ago.
Well,
You're talking about the one on Academy?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a
Well-
hill that separates them. There's a lower level and a top level, and there's a hill right there. So we would run the water right behind the U6 field towards the hill, right across the U10. And then we would redo the U10 field. From there, we have a vendor who is donating his time, some of the materials, not all, to branch off from the main that you would create for me and put in 4 spigots down that hill so that we can get water to the U12 field and the U19 field, which is the largest fields we have. Let's see, so the main, I guess, is something about $3,500.
The cost of the line and the tap would run about close to $3,800. And, yeah, Charles, do you need to talk? And I didn't want to be the one to make that decision. I would rather someone to tell us if you think this is the right thing to do, and
This is Michael Tierhurst, he's our second VP, and he may understand a little bit more about it than I do, like the stuff we're putting on the fields and the expense that it takes to, because he'd be able to tell you how much we spent on recreating the U8 field, those kinds of things, to kind of give you an idea of how much money the club actually tries to put back into the club.
yes, I believe you do.
You said it was $3,600?
It's almost $3,800.
Almost $3,800. And so when Maxine emailed me, she stated that the city would participate in paying for half if we could pay the other half. So I asked if the $1,800, I believe that was the amount,
Yes, that would be
could be paid in portions? Could it be paid after we do registration for the fall season? Could it be, what are our options as a club to get the water main in? Because that is our number one goal at this point. Or can we be waived the $1,800? Because we do contribute back to our community quite a bit. And we also took up the mowing of the fields so that we could help benefit the city so that they don't have to come out and spend their full-time employees doing that. The wear and tear on their machinery and all of that. We bought 2 lawn mowers, and that's one of the reasons why we didn't know it was going to be $1,800, or we would have saved that. Instead, we bought a truck to be able to empty trash, lawn mowers to be able to mow the fields, maintenance on them, so forth and so forth. So we've done a lot to try to keep our club self-sufficient and not depend on the city for so much. But you want to talk about the field stuff?
I think she did a really good job.
Just tell them what we're putting on it, what that stuff entails.
She did a really good job, but if you can add anything to it, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah, like you said, I'm Mike Terrest. I'm the second vice president currently. What basically we're putting on the fields is known as aspartate. Aspartate is an organic soluble material that helps the soil compaction. Right now, we're at about 300 pressure per square inch is what it is, which is a lot. I mean, that's basically taking an elephant and smashing a peanut is basically what we're equivalent to on that. We're also using a grass stimulant and a root supplement to kind of help bore down as the supplement works, the aspartate works. The soil compaction actually reduces, and that is able to get down in there to promote grass stimuli. Pretty much the maintenance that we're doing out there at this point is that we're getting ready to spend approximately about $1,000 to get the U8 and the U10 field back to where it'd be at a good playing field at this point. And then plus we're going to look at putting sod out there and doing plugs, which is going to be approximately about another $1,500. So, I mean, with that and then the mower and everything like that, we spent about $3,500 on the 0-point mower, and then we also paid another $500 for a mower that we use to pull the sprayer behind that disperses out the equipment. So, pretty much, I mean, I don't know what all else she had elaborated or stated, but
I've got a question.
yes.
What comes first? There's about three or four things. If you put grass on there, but your ball still goes that way, you got to have, don't you start with level first?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. The fields that we do have at this point, we're still yet trying to promote grass growth on it. For instance, the U19, the U12 field, which is at the far northeast and northwest corner of the complex, the 19 is down at the far lower northwest corner.
Okay.
It's the larger of the fields. And then the U12 is at the east side, northeast side of the complex. That we're still yet putting down this root stimuli to kind of help build up the grass and everything like that, to where it's applicable that we may not have to redo those 2 fields. If everything goes according to plan, this aspartate works as well as what they predict it will. Only time will tell. It takes about 2 to 3 years before we're ever really going to know what the difference is between those. The U10, however, there's about a 3-foot drop from the southeast corner to the southwest corner, and then it's another 1.5-foot drop from the southeast corner to the northwest corner. So that's got a fairly good slope on it. What we're going to do is we're going to bring out a disc it up, and level it back off to where it's going to be more comfortable to play on. It's just a kind of a convenience deal, to where the ball's not rolling at such an angle when they're playing. Is it going to make a significant difference? I don't know. They're U9, U10 players, so some of them do, and I mean some of them will probably end up going to play Guthrie High School soccer. As time goes on, we want to give them the most comfortable opportunity to be able to match that type of play and to be able to stimulate them to the best of our ability. And playing fields, having a level playing field, I think will attribute to that quite a bit. So once we get that all leveled out and everything like that, those are 2 primary fields that we're concerned about, is the U8 and the U12 or U10. So we will get, we're going to level that off, the U10 and U8. We're going to shut down those 2 fields. basically level those off, get grass planted out there, get those plugs put in, and let our
That's when the
asphalt do
water
our works. And then that's where the water will inevitably come into play. At that point, I guess, did you tell her that we're going to run it north to south along the hill? I believe is what she stated.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the questions is that, I mean, is it just the meter that's going to cost that much, or is it supplies as well, like with pipe and et cetera?
That's everything to get you tapped into the main and run out to the middle of the field.
Okay. What is the regulation and stuff on that as far as when it comes to, does it have to be the city that actually hooks up to the main and runs it out to the center? Or if I had, like, for instance, I've got a licensed plumber that would be more than willing to,
They can't tap water.
they can't tap into the main? Okay. So I mean, even like supplies and stuff, I mean, if we can get that donated, would that be, I mean, would that reduce the cost significantly, or would you say just kind of proportionate? I mean, I guess that's, I mean, I'm sorry. It's just kind of-
They, I mean, yeah, but it has to meet city regulations. I mean, we'd want you to put in the same thing we put in.
Right.
The main, I mean, your cost is the meter for the most part. I mean, you're looking at about 2,100 for the meter, and then the setter's another about 900. So,
And then I'm not familiar, but they also said that we needed something like a pump, a back pump.
see, I don't know what they're talking about.
Okay. Because it's, I guess apparently like whenever you're running.
Maybe a backflow preventer?
Yeah, backflow or whatever.
See, that is on our setters.
Okay. So we don't even have to worry about that and having the
I don't know.
doghouse for that or
That's
anything.
what he was saying, it's putting something inside a building.
Yeah, basically when we go out to water and whatnot, because we're going to be pulling so much from the city, I say so much, when you're pulling that type of water from the city, sometimes the chemicals backflow into the lines, and I guess it can spread out to the residential areas, and that's what that's there to prevent. But apparently, that's probably alleviated with the setter.
Right. That's
So-
why we put them setters in. For that reason.
So, yeah,
I see. So we may not need the pump.
so we would need $600.
That's what I said, I didn't understand unless he's putting a pump in there to inject the chemicals into the water system.
No, it's to prevent it from being dispersed, the chemicals, an overabundant amount of, like trichlorohexane or anything like that being distributed out, which is a carcinogenic, keeping it from being distributed out to the citizens would be the concern. But if the setter does that, then that's fine.
So currently, does the soccer club pay the utilities then, the water out there?
No, I just read some, here in our lease, it says that the leaseor agrees to replace lamps, field lights, provide the electricity, perform fence repairs, maintain the parking area, and provide water and a dumpster for trash service at no additional charge, which is basically what we've been doing. So and she mentioned that I guess if we put in water, that the water responsibilities may change in some sort, so I didn't know what that entailed, too.
If they're out there watering, in other words, if they do that on a regular basis, naturally, they're going to use more water.
Right.
So it's just up to you all how you want them to. And this contract is basically the same type of contract we have with the other Little League associations.
What do the other Little League associations do for water and things like that? Do they pay?
No, this is basically the same setup.
Do you have any idea on how much water usage you'll be using?
I mean, honestly, I've never watched, so I mean, anything that I would be telling you would probably be either a lie or just completely underestimated, honestly, so.
Really don't know.
I don't. I mean, and really the only thing we need to do is just get enough water down there to where we can continuously just give it a little bit of stimuli amongst the drought that we have or something like that. I mean, it's not going to be something like you see the football fields doing whenever they're watering every day. It'd be once a week for an hour and a half to 2 hours, just something that'll help soak in the aspartate to reduce our soil compaction is really our primary interest, because this stuff is supposed to do its job. We just need to give something, when we do have like the droughts that we've been having this past 3-4 months, that right there will just give us a little bit of help to get that aspartate soaked in there to where our soil compaction won't be as significant as what it is.
Okay. So, of course, we've had a drought for 3 or 4 years. But when this chemical is being put on there, it probably that was pretty. That probably takes even more water than once it's settled, and you said about in 2 years?
Yeah, well, the way that we're applying it right now
Uh-huh.
is that, I mean, it's just going off the basic flow of what our weather pattern has been for the past 3 to 4 years is the approximation. The more water we get out there, the quicker this gets absorbed. So, I mean, if we're sitting there and we're looking at a 300 pounds per square inch, it's going to take a long time for that to actually break through the crust and to even make any type of progress. So what it does is we apply this. For instance, we went out there and we applied it this past weekend. With all this rain and stuff, it's helped out probably significantly. And what it does is when that water comes and settles, that aspartate breaks it loose, settles down to its next core level, and then we apply that aspartate, and then the water absorbs it on down to where it starts breaking it up slowly. It oxidizes any type of the red clay that's going on that's helping consolidate that soil, is the way that it applies.
How do you spell that?
ASPA 80?
Yeah, it's ASPA 80.
And so do you currently water at night or in the morning or to help?
We don't water period out there
You-
right
oh.
now, no. It would take so much hose to really do any type of justice or anything of that nature that, you know, I mean, we'd be spraying just this little bitty area at this point because of where our water supply is out at.
But when you get the current, water supply out there?
I would probably venture to say that, I mean, due to my schedule and everything like that, it would be in the evening time.
Okay.
Would be the most conducive. I
And
mean,
the hands that help him with the fields would be evening time also.
do you do this all just volunteer? This is because you love soccer, you want the kids to play?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Everybody that mows the fields, paints the fields, resurveys the field every season to lay it out and everything like that, it's all volunteer work.
Okay.
I know I spend probably about, in a season, easily 80 to 90 hours out there.
So I think we've got enough, if you need to sit down now, I think we've got enough information to try and figure it out. Ben, how would we look at this?
Well, I think we need to discuss about the water consumption because that's the city, and I don't, that's something they may have to address on the water consumption.
Well, I think that probably we would need to, they would need to use it for maybe a year, and then we take another look at it and see where you are there.
Okay.
We don't have a problem with any of our little leagues. We want to do everything that we
Right.
can to make it easy on them. But we also want to be frugal with the citizens' money, too.
Now, is this a yearly lease then?
Yes, it is.
okay.
Yes, it is. And we've had a very good relationship with this group, just as we've had with all of our groups.
I would recommend that we keep the lease as is and check, look at it a year from today and look at the water consumption and allow them to pay the money that's due at the end like they do with their, currently in the lease, where they're paying a percentage of the concessions and everything else at the end, and then they just, if the city's okay with that, pay the $1,800 at the end and give them time to pay for that instead of a lump sum, since they've, like they said, currently put in so much for their lawn mowing and everything else, and then, they do mow it, which does save the city money from the city employees doing that as
That's
well.
right.
So that would be my recommendation.
Well, I like that. What do we,
So you make a motion?
okay.
Well, I make a motion to keep the lease as is, but adding in that they pay the $1,800 at the end of the year when they pay the percentages and things like that, and that we also look at the water usage at the end or at the next renewal of the lease.
I'll second.
Okay, we have, we have a second also, so all in favor of this, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We've moved on. This is great. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, the next one is discussion and possible action on the Excelsior Building as to the recommended use and potential sale of the building. Jim Algren?
Parks Board, good evening. I'm Jim Algren. I'm the Human Resources Director and Administrative Services Director for the City of Guthrie. And I have been asked by the City Manager and the City Council to bring this item to you for your review and for your recommendation back to the City Council in terms of what to do with the Excelsior Building. And I think in your packet that you have has some information with regard to some history, it goes back to the original agreement, original and only agreement, I believe, with dated March 31st, 1998. And there's some information in that. And toward the very end of all that information, you'll also see some recent expenditures that the city has had with regard to the building. And I guess if you want to go back and just kind of look at the original agreement, one of the things that it called out for or asked for, there's a number of things, annual reporting, and for the most part, we've seen some of that. It might be a little bit hit and miss in terms of the years. I think the last one that we've gotten from the group was dated, March of 2012. So we're probably looking for another one here very shortly. We're probably a couple months behind, but that shouldn't be a big deal. Also in the original agreement, it calls that the city agrees to provide the facility and then that there'd be limited maintenance to the facility. In other words, limited maintenance by the city for upkeep. And I think that kind of goes back to the core issue here. If you, again, go to the very last page and you can see the costs that the city has put forth from just going back to the last 3 years to the building. You can see, there's some fixed costs and then there's some costs that over the years just because of the repairs. You can see in 2011, that cost was about $6,500. In 2012, it was $7,500. And then in 2013, we had a pretty major issue with a sewer repair, and that went up to like $20,000. And I think, the expectation is that if we were to maintain this building or keep this building in the city, that these costs are going to continue. I mean, it's expensive, and I guess, one of the things from the city's perspective is that, we don't spend a whole lot of money on capital improvements to begin with. Rightly or wrongly, probably wrongly, we don't, because we don't have a lot of money, and so to look ahead, I mean, this year, in 2013, it was $20,000. We know that building does need a new roof. And we know that it leaks, and we know that, there's issues with that. With leak can come mold, and so we've got probably a little bit of a mold issue with that building too. So we know there's some repairs that have to happen on that side. So the question becomes, I think originally this has been, I say originally going back to 98, it was underneath the parks realm or the hierarchy of the parks, so we're bringing it to you folks to say, what is it that you would want to do with the Excelsior building? Recognizing, it's an older building and it's in need of some maintenance, and there's a lot of history with that building as well, but.
How much is it being used? Because I remember when we first moved here, my husband and I did many, many art things. It was great fun. It was a wonderful building. They'd bought all that new stuff. But is it being used now? I don't ever see anything that says
Yes.
they're doing anything like that.
Yes, all the time.
Yeah,
That's all of them.
Okay, well, we've missed out, but we had a wonderful time. We did all kinds of things.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion it is in use, and I think we've got some folks nodding their head yes, that it is in use. And again, we've got some information going back to 2011 on, some of the statistics here it's more on the revenue side in terms of the teachers but it's predominantly, I think, we've got pottery, a dark room, and weaving. And that's, to my knowledge, and jewelry, there you go. That's not on the latest statement, so I apologize for that, but.
Are all these rooms being utilized that are in this diagram, or just the
That-
1, 2, 3, and 4 that are on here?
They're all being utilized. I don't know if they're accessible, but the weavers and the pottery people who are in there all the time could probably give us an account of that, unless you have been over there and looked through every room and nook and cranny.
Well, I've been over there from time to time. I haven't been over there recently, but,
Okay.
in fact, the last time I was over there was looking at leaks, trying to solve some leaking issues, but.
So Sherry, on this diagram, is this
And the
room
links are
1, is
still
that the
there.
northeast corner? It doesn't say on this map.
There's stairs.
Right, but are the stairs on the south side, or they're on the south side, the entrance? Okay, so that's northeast, okay. Because the pottery's in room 1, I take it, which is the northeast corner? Okay.
Do any of you have comments about how the actual building is doing? I'd like to hear some, I know, yes, physically.
If you want to come up
You
and
have to-
speak at the podium,
You
that
have
would be
to
good.
come up. And introduce yourself.
I'm Donna Hilton, and I teach weaving at the Art Center. So I'm up there a lot, and I take a class. I take a jewelry class. Today, we were having weaving, and you could hear the ceiling tiles fall into the dumpster. I mean, yesterday, Betsy took the trash can and put it underneath one of the leaks by the dark room. And so we were there and we went, oh, what's that noise? And it was the ceiling tiles falling down. So, we love, we just love it there. And Guthrie has something that I don't know any town in Oklahoma that has what we have here. That's provided by the town. I don't even think people in Guthrie know.
No, because we lost track. And like I said,
Yeah.
we did a lot of neat things. I didn't realize you were still doing all.
Right, and there's equipment there that,
I'm also curious, what kind of income is coming in? Are we getting anything? I mean, we used to
Yeah.
have to pay a fee to go in and do.
Bob can speak to that.
My name is Buck Dollarhide. I teach pottery classes. at the
We've
Guthrie
got
Art
your
Center.
pot. We just looked at it. My husband said, I said, we're going to talk about the Excelsior. He said, that's the pot, Dollarhide. I wonder if he's still doing that.
You bet. I've been doing that for 47 years.
Wow.
I took my first pottery class at OSU when I was basically at the end of my undergraduate studies. I'm a secondary education major. And when you're a secondary education major, you have to declare a minor. Well, my major was in math, and I declared a minor in art. So I guess I've got a good brain. It's part left, part right, so it seems to work okay. And Actually, I was not interested in taking a pottery class. That was the last thing I was interested in. I was interested in my grade point average being up where it was. And everyone I had talked with that took a pottery class, they were lucky if they made a C. There were more D's and F's in pottery class. So I wasn't going to let a 3-hour pottery class ruin my GPA. So I told my advisor I was not going to take a pottery class. He informed me before I finished making that statement that I was and that I had to or I wouldn't get a degree. So reluctantly, I waited till as late as I could to enroll in a pottery class. I wound up absolutely loving it. I only needed to take 3 hours. At that time at OSU, you could take up to 9 hours for credit, which I took 9 hours, and then I actually audited another 9 hours, which basically you take it for not a grade. It's just a class you take, you're registered as being a student there, but you don't work a grade for it. So I wound up taking 18 hours. That was I started in 1967. So, like I say, I've been doing this for 47 years. I think a lot of times people don't really realize what the arts do for a community. Unfortunately, it's one of the first things that's cut. It happens the same thing in public schools. It's one of the first things that's cut. And all the time and all the money is dedicated to math and science and English and history and all those other kinds of things. But you'll find that people, if you just visit with people who make a contribution to the community or a contribution to wherever they live, the apartment complex they live in, you'll find that most of those people had art somewhere in their background because it's all the peripheral things that you get out of art. It's not like you're going to be a rocket science or anything like that, but anyone who's ever gone to a place where art's displayed or has art or collects art, there's just something to be said about that person who creates that thing because it all comes from within them is what it amounts to. So anyway, we've been there for about 17 years. We have, when you do something like this, you have to consider the geographic area that you can draw from. And people may drive 30 minutes to come, it's just like going to church, for example. A lot of times a church may have a tremendous amount of growth in the people that attend church, particularly when they get a new pastor. But what happens is they're stealing people from other churches, is really what it amounts to. The total number of people in that community going to church is not going to change that much because you're only going to draw from a certain piece of the pie. And that pie may have a 20-mile radius. I'm just pulling that number out of the air, but they have a 20-mile radius. That's what people are not going to drive for 2 hours to go to church. They're not going to drive for 2 hours to go to a pottery class. So you only have so many people you're going to draw from. When we first started, again, about 17 years ago, when we were kind of new, there were times when I had 22 students. And basically, the classes are one night a week, Thursday nights from 6:30 to 9:30. Most of the other classes are set up the same way. They meet for 2.5, 3 hours once a week. Most all of us that teach actually have open studio time also, where we have a person basically who's taking classes for 3 or 4 months. They get comfortable with the equipment and comfortable with the way the building is set up, and we allow them to come in and basically be there and available for that 3-hour period for the month that they're enrolled in class. And that lets students come in and work on their own rather than to have to just be able to work that one night a week for their classes. Now, we probably, a lot of those people have taken classes for a number of years, and they wind up wanting to build their own little studio sometime. I had a husband and wife, Bob and Jan Garrett, took classes for probably 8 or 9 years, saved the money up. They live out on Guthrie Lake, and they built their own little studio out there. They said they could have bought a very high-end luxury automobile for what they paid for their little studio. But they're still doing that now, and they do it together. As husband and wife, they do it together. I've had students where it's been a father and a son, a father and a daughter, a mother and or grandmother. And so you have all kinds of combinations of people that take those classes and get a lot of enjoyment out of it. A city has to understand, I think, that there are certain things that make most people can live, they don't have to live in Guthrie. They can live somewhere else. I lived in Guthrie for 24, 25 years now, sat in the council for a term, in fact. I work in Stillwater, and I've often thought about moving back to Stillwater. It's not a big drive from here to Stillwater, 35 minutes or so, one way. But my wife and I talk about what a nice place Guthrie is to live. There's some good people in Guthrie. It doesn't seem to have, they're not as much into politics as much as other cities are. Sometimes you go into cities and it's just a struggle. You listen to city councils and it's just a struggle. Everybody's got their own axe to grind and everybody. And it seems like Guthrie has had their times when there hasn't been as much of a respect on the council for other council members, but for the most part, Guthrie's not that way. People come and they serve on the council to get things done. They respect the point of view of other people. So Guthrie's very, very fortunate in that. About the only thing I can say about the building, we do have things we would like, we actually use 2 of the spaces there. We use one room basically where all of our pieces are stored while they're drying, while they're getting ready to be fired, that sort of thing. And then we have another room where we actually have our potter's wheels set up in our space to do hand building. We currently have a dozen potter wheels. When we started, we only had one wheel, and it was a kick wheel. So we had one wheel. It's awfully hard to teach classes when you've got 8 or 10 people in one potter's wheel. So over the years, we've bought wheels, and we now have a dozen wheels. We have a space where 6 or 8 students can sit to do hand building. There are some things we'd like to have. We don't have any water available in that room. So we have to go into either the mechanical room or we have to get water from one of the restrooms there or from the kitchen area. But that's not a have-to-have thing. So there are things we'd like to have in the building, but we realize that we've been given quite a gift. Us as teachers and people who are students have been given quite a gift, and we always try to respect that. So we don't come in saying we need to have this, we need to have this, we need to have that. I understand with soccer fields that there are things that you have to have there. But we basically have a space that functions for us very well. And I think that if the roof problem were fixed, other things that you don't know about, plumbing problems, those kinds of things that come up, you're always going to have maintenance in that building. So I think the city has to look at it from one point of view is they have an investment in the building. What the building is worth, I'm not certain. There's 2,300 square foot. It's probably somewhere worth $75, $80 a square foot. So there's quite an investment in that building. So to do those maintenance things is basically, you're not doing those just for the people that teach and the people that take classes there. You're doing that to protect your investment in that building. So you have to look at it that way too. And if you own property, you're always going to have some investment to make in that.
When was it built? Does anybody know?
Well,
It looks like, when was it built? Late 50s?
Yeah, I'm sure it's on the plaque out there, but I don't know the date.
Do you know when the last time a roof was put on?
Probably never.
I'm not sure that
Bob
Roof-
Bozarth may have some of the logistic. You can't get out of it, Bob.
I'm Bob Bozarth, and I can just tell you that the roof, we started having trouble about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and longer.
Yeah, it's been before that we've actually had leaks. They've really
It's gotten
developed
really-
into a problem here last 4 or 5 years.
And so it was patched, but the patches never stuck. I guess they never worked, and it's just continued. They mentioned we had a dark room. We haven't had a dark room in 3 years because of the leaks. So, I mean,
So what roof is on it? Is it tar or flat?
right now,
Pitch?
it's got a white substance on it that the city put on to patch it.
Okay.
And I was up there recently, and there's huge bubbles.
But it's a flat roof though?
Yeah, it's a flat roof.
It's a complicated question. It's a flat roof.
you know, on flat roofs, either leak or they're gonna leak, or they either leak or they're going to leak, you know, I mean, they're, you know, but it's a flat roof. It's a roof that, it's not a built-up roof like a tar roof. There is that underneath, but on top, it's a foam roof with a membrane, a liquid membrane. It was liquid, and then it solidifies, and that's what's on there right now. And that particular roof was put on a number of years ago. At the same time, the library had a new roof put on, and we've since replaced the roof at the library with a new membrane-type roof, which is basically like a rubberized cloth, if you will, for a layman term, and that we have at the library, and that's a very expensive roof compared to a built-up roof. But at the library, we did that because of the fact that in order to go back to a built-up roof, we'd have had to tear everything back off of it again, and the cost of tearing that all out exceeded the value of putting a membrane roof on. It keeps the roof light. So on the Excelsior building, we have a built-up roof, and then we have foam, and then on top of the foam, we have a membrane-like substance, and that's worn out.
So do you have a quote for a new roof or to have this one repaired?
14,000,
We
I
have-
imagine.
We haven't, we had a while back, not a recent one, but it was around between 60 and 65,000 to put on a membrane roof onto
I
that.
have something to add to that. I had a person look at it myself, so I could tell the city manager. And if you looked at the roof, there's two different roofs. There's two, the east roof and the west roof. They're divided sections. And all the leaks are in the west side. And the man that looked at it, I asked him to just give me the low ball figure, what he could do. And he said he could repair the west side and guarantee it not to leak for 10 years for $15,000. I don't have it in writing yet, but, okay.
Well, that's great. I like that figure.
Plus, the Art Center would be glad to contribute a third of that amount. We have $5,000 we could contribute.
Have you checked into like a metal roof or anything to just cover the whole thing to?
I think what he's going to do is some kind of a sprayed thing. I don't know the term.
Okay.
But it's supposedly be guaranteed.
Okay, but we're still at, do we have any money that comes in to pay for some, I mean, are we making, I see there's supposed to be tuition, grants, corporate sponsors. Do we have anybody doing? I'm on the Citizens Rate Committee, and I can tell you, it's really tight. Money's really, really tight to try to do all of this, and I just would like to know, is there any money that comes in?
The Art Center doesn't raise enough money from
It's just a
tuitions.
wonderful thing to have. It's good for the people.
Probably $50 to $60 a month we raise
Okay.
above what the instructors get.
Could I add something? I want to throw something else out there. What if we fixed it up a little bit, sold the building, and as good stewards that we are in Guthrie, and to support the art, we take that money that we've made in that building and we find a wonderful building to put as a payment, move that art center into the downtown area, have it, what Buck Dollarhide said about having a, that it can only grow so much, like if we had, I've seen in at least one place, Fredericksburg, Virginia, and my friend Donna has seen it in several places where every tourist that comes in can sign up and have something for their children and for themselves if they want to take a one-time class. And volunteers will help and sell the products that are there, that are made, the jewelry, the pottery. It is an amazing thing, and we could, as good stewards of Guthrie, help the Arts Center get started, and then it'll make a lot more than $65 a month.
So,
Well, I'm personally against selling the building.
Okay?
Even if we as Art Center are kicked out, I'm still against selling the building because the historical nature of the building.
Okay, I was just going to throw that out there. I'm not.
so currently, Bob, how many students do you have in there that that pay the $50, I guess, for a class. Do you know how many people are enrolled in there right now?
20, around about 20 students, are we?
Yeah, for all three of the classes that we have.
20
Year
students?
round. When we first started, we were doing classes like watercolor and sculpting and da-da-da-da, and they were 6-week classes. I did a 6-week class in a darkroom, but now the weaving and pottery and jewelry are so popular, they go year-round completely.
So somebody comes, so you have 20 students that pay $50 for a 6-week class, right?
Well, they pay, for pottery, for example, it's $48 a month.
Okay.
Yeah, now, each individual student has to pay for their clay and the glazes, that sort of thing, but $48 a month covers their instruction, the firing of the pieces they make, the use of the wheels and that sort of thing, so it's $48 a month.
Okay.
And it's broke down to 3/4 of the $48 goes to the instructor, and 1/4 goes to the school. And we have only one paid person who is a custodian, who gets $50 a month.
And all of that, from what I'm understanding, I think all of the equipment we have is paid by the.
Yeah, we
schools
bought
portion
all the
of that
equipment.
tuition. Yeah.
Ms. Nephew, would you come up and gracious?
Certainly.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I saw on the agenda, I'm glad how you're taking your interest in this building tonight, but I saw on there the sale of the building. And I wanted that never to happen, because I wanted to share with you some of the history of that facility. In your spare time, bedside reading. I have it documented right here. And I think at the time that this happened, I was sitting on council. And so I just want to share some of the information with you about how this building came about. And these are my little point papers. In 1899, Judge Burford issued a letter to Andrew Carnegie mentioning a public library was to be open to everyone, black or white. In reality, did not be the case. The Carnegie Library was closed to colored people. In 1906, Excelsior Club was founded by Ms. Judith Harden, 21 members organization of African Americans and women for uplift work. In 1907, Ms. Harden was the first, inspired by Mrs. A.A. Johnson, the Dean of Women of Oberlin, Texas. Later, her husband wanted to join the Carnegie Library and he couldn't. So then in 1908, Ms. Harden and the Excelsior Club, they mailed over 2,000 letters to friends in Guthrie out of state to aid the raising of $5,000 to purchase and equip a building to meet the present needs. In the response, she got some money. The name of the building was to be the Excelsior Library and Industrial Institute. So what's happening now with that facility, with the industrial part, is just a part of her program that she wanted. It was a 3-corner lot, paved street, located 3 blocks from the business district. It was easy access to the colored schools. The property was a 2-story frame building, 7 large and 2 small windows, 2 small rooms. The terms of the payment was $3,500 per property and in 4 installments of $1,000 cash and $1,000 annually. Then the Excelsior Club contracted with the city of Guthrie, giving them a lease on the building and books to be held on the trust under the jurisdiction of the Carnegie Library. The city of Guthrie established ordinances appropriately for that to happen. And then the city of Guthrie appointed board members, and they got them all listed here. The Excelsior board elected Judith Harden as the first librarian, and she was assisted by Mrs. E.S. Ridley, who was the custodian at that time. In September the 1st, the mortgage was given. November the 18th, they opened the exercise. In 1909, the city of Guthrie assumed the debt and accepted the library. In 1954, In December, a school bond issue was passed for $50,000 to build a new Excelsior library. And that's how this old frame building was torn down for the facility that it is now. And in 1967, the Excelsior and the Carnegie Library consolidated, ending separate but equal libraries. And in 1970, the new city library constructed on the corner of North Division, where it is now, and it's known as the Guthrie Public Library. But since that time, in 1997, I began to do my research, and I went to, I think at that time we had a lot of interim city managers, and Don Johnson was one of them, and he researched the information on how we got that building, and that's when my research began. So in 1998, Valerie Haynes, after we'd done so much research with the Oklahoma Territory Museum, we had a dedication of the facility. And the reason why we did the dedication is because Pastor Hammonds and Mr. A.C. Love, they erected that cornerstone that's on the outside of that building that tells what it is and how it is and all that type of thing. We're very proud of that. And so we did that, and then 98. That is when the arts community came in, and we said you could use the building because it was in direct line with what she wanted that building to be in the first place. So I wanted you to know, before we think about reselling the facility, we tore it down not knowing how valuable it was. But to resell, we take away some of the history because it was the first African-American library in the state of Oklahoma. Wow. In the state of Oklahoma. So I want you all to be cognizant of those things, and thank you for your time. If you want to read the bedside reading, I have it here. And I think I did ask, I think a copy of this is probably in our library. If not, it's with the Oklahoma Territory Museum. Be happy to share with you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Nephew. That was wonderful. Yes, please do.
I'm Wallace Owens. I'm an artist, professor emeritus from the University of Central Oklahoma. And I own the Owens Arts Place Museum here in Guthrie, the first and only fine arts museum in the history of Logan County. Now, I just want to say one thing, that Guthrie itself is a masterpiece. People come to Guthrie. Guthrie is going to be an art center. We're working on that. And so when we talk about closing a building and building another building, we've got a building there that the structure is sound, and I think that with a little addition, a few funds, that we could make this thing work. But some of the things that, because we've got potter's wheels, we've got jewelry equipment, we've got weaving, but also people, when they move into a city, they look for arts. This is one of the things that draw people to a city, tourism. And we got to think about our children. We could have summer programs, we could have things that would facilitate activities in education and so forth. So I think when we began to put the dollar sign in front of the arts, we're getting on the wrong track. There's two different lines of reasoning there. We also need to think about our community, the educational opportunities. When people move to our city, that's the first thing they want to know about the schools, about the extracurricular activities. Another thing is that our services for our senior citizens. And we have senior citizen facilities. This could be a place where they could go and take some classes. People who retire, sitting at home, nothing to do. This is a wonderful opportunity to go and become involved. Now, many people throughout their career perhaps did not take any art in school. They're void of any experience. So you can't appreciate something that you have not had experience with. And so I think that this is a wonderful opportunity to do some things for the community that would really enhance our community and to accommodate the people who are moving into this area. Guthrie is growing. Guthrie is set to grow. I see Guthrie as, we've got water, we've got railroad track, we're right on I-35, we've got plenty of workforce here. And so these are the things that will draw people into our area. And so I belong to the Museum Association. You might not realize that we have about 8 different museums in the city of Guthrie. The Territorial Museum, the Railroad Museum, the Cigarette Lighter Museum, the Orange Arts Place Museum, the Banjo Museum, lots of museums. So if we want to maintain and keep this status and keep growing and to draw people into our community, I think this is one of the major things that we need to consider, and not the dollar. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think I see where, this was presented to us, this is new, totally. I think we need to table to work on this a little more. And it looks like there's grants. Has anybody done a grant? Because this is a building, obviously, wants to be kept, and if we sell it and then suddenly it's gone, we don't have it. But at this point, I guess it's a question of how do we maintain, how do we come up with $20,000 or more to fix the roof?
Who is the program director currently for this facility?
Is there a program director for,
I mean, I just see this in this budget that's here, and I didn't know if, it says $2,000 a month, 4 weeks, $24,000 a year.
Is that's got a,
Is that,
No,
I don't think there's nobody,
just
we're not
asking.
paying, we're not
I'm
paying.
just asking because I see this on the paper, so.
One of those with a star, I guess
So
it means
currently,
there's
the only
somebody.
thing is the fees going out to the instructor fees and the supplies then. On the expenses. Pardon me?
I can address it.
Please, Bob.
When we first started the school, we were involved with the Y. And the Oklahoma Arts Council was involved, and we had some grant money. And there were some people drawing some nice salaries, if y'all would recall. And that was when the city was more involved.
Okay.
Then they went their way, and we lost the grant money, and that's where you got that.
Yeah.
Okay.
can I ask a couple questions? Currently, how many nights a week is it being used? I guess, is it just the once?
Well, several nights.
Okay,
And days.
and days.
Tuesdays,
Okay, okay.
it's being used a lot.
Okay, and as far as future projects, because obviously the roof is a serious thing, but do we know any other, I guess, updates or serious things? Like I saw in here that there was replaced a heater, the repairs to the heaters, plumbing that the water main, or the sewer line was replaced. I mean, are there any other really serious looming, or is it pretty much the roof at the moment
It's
that
the
we know?
roof. It's the roof is the really,
That's the one about the,
Yeah, because that's what I'm noticing is it looks like the really big projects have been,
I think we
except
have
for
one,
this,
there's a couple heating units. One has been replaced. The other one is probably going to
about to be,
need to be replaced, the heat exchangers. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
there's another one that
Is
could go at any time.
Okay.
So,
So I guess another question I have too is besides the $5,000 that Bob, you said that you guys could put up for the roof, I look at the people who had the soccer field and how they mow the yard and they volunteer and how much they also give back to try to keep those fields how they are with the city providing them things as well. So with all the artists that you guys have, what do you think that you can do to bring more people in to generate more income coming in to help sustain that facility or get it going. I know how Bob said, or not Bob, but that, the people within forgot your name, within a certain area, how many people you have that will come in to do that. But I guess, for instance, she went there, but then she didn't even know if it still existed or you still did things. So I guess that's what I'm saying is, how do you keep the word out, keep it going, let more people know so that, the gentleman said, getting students to come in, senior citizens, nursing homes, I'm all for the arts and trying to get people in, but you got to have people.
Let's
get it
ask, let's have Donna give some suggestions to answer your questions.
I think with the, what is it, TAG, the Arts in Guthrie, I went to that meeting, and I think with that set in place, we could use the Art Center more. It would become part of the community. I even think the people in TAG didn't even know that we existed.
Yeah.
And we don't have the money to pay somebody full-time. I mean, we do it ourselves, we word of mouth, Facebook, this and that. We try to, work it the best we can. I think the TAG idea is where we're going to be able to expand, get people coming in there, charge the people for it. I mean, we pay for it. We have so many donations. I know in weaving, a lot of the looms were donated. The threads are donated. We have a library that you wouldn't believe in the state of Oklahoma. I don't think we are a repository for the history of weaving in Oklahoma. I mean, we have a metal cabinet so that the roof doesn't ruin it, but we have all the old sample books from the Oklahoma City Guild, which was 1948 was the first weaving guild in Oklahoma. And we have all the books and the samples, and, we just have all that. And we just need a place to put it. We have old looms that have the Bureau of Indian Affairs stamps on them. Looms that are mostly cast iron. I mean, we have all that history. That Wanda Nabi, you should stand up, Wanda. She's the one that gathered all this. I just teach. She's the master. But anyway, I think when we went to that TAG meeting, Betsy and I did, we kind of went, oh, this could be it. Because otherwise, it's just the same people.
Can you tell us about TAG? What is that? Or
Well, I think
let's have that
There you
guy
go.
come up.
That's the man.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Van French. I'm the managing director of the Pollard Theater, and I'm on the board of the Arts in Guthrie, which is the organization she's referring to as TAG. It's a newly formed group that our primary purpose is to work with all of downtown Guthrie, help create an image and marketing of the cultural arts district. And one of our first steps was to look around at all the assets that we have of facilities, of artists, of organizations, and all the different arts organizations and festivals, events, and the block parties, all the things that are going on. We're working to find a way to help consolidate all of that. And one of the cornerstones of the Guthrie arts community, we believe, is the Guthrie Arts Center down there. And it's probably, this is all coming up to a head right now because we are at that point where we need to start building. And if I don't want to speak out of turn and say this wrongly, but if the Art Center has become overlooked, if you've dwindled in awareness and usage, maybe part of what the Arts in Guthrie is doing can coordinate with you and help with the networking, with the marketing, and start building up what you need. And so at this point in time, with the momentum that's starting to build in Guthrie, I really would implore the city to step forward with some proper stewardship, help support the arts, and the way you could do that is just maintain the structure. Again, not to step on any toes, but the city is, like a lot of organizations, your own facilities are the ones that you tend to overlook, and you overlook what the proper use of. I remember the firehouse, the fire hose campaign that we had a few years ago to get one of the last remaining historical host towers exists in Guthrie. It was falling apart at a time when Guthrie, the Historic Preservation Committee, was going to all the building owners and saying, you have to keep your property up, you have to do minimal maintenance, and the city itself was remiss in doing that for its own property. So I hope the city could look at that in this case and do what's necessary to bring the building back up to standards, and the arts community we will step forward and do our part to help make sure that it's put to proper use.
Thank you.
And we do take care of the building, in case somebody $50 to vacuum it. She plants flowers and takes care of the yard, you know what I mean? And she's painted and she's made curtains, and Fran teaches jewelry, and she just spends her own money on making everything look beautiful. So I mean, we work there free of charge.
Donna, you got to come up here. That's too important not to say it again. To say it not.
Donna Hilton. Anyway, we haven't painted yet. We'd like to, but we do hide things behind screens and whatever. But we clean, vacuum, take care of the trash. We do all that. I mean, the young woman that she comes by once or twice a month. But otherwise, we take care of all that. And we clean the kitchen and just take care of everything that we can do that we know, that it's okay. I mean, even the door that's falling apart, or Catherine plants flowers every year. She takes care of the landscaping and pruning and all that stuff. I mean, we do take care of it. And we do volunteer. We're up there a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, this is just a discussion. We're not voting on anything, are we?
It's up to, it's up to vote. Discussion and possible action. of the
Possible.
Excel-
That's not too-
Possible, yeah.
Um,
The Excelsior Building, as to the recommended use and potential sale of the building. I think we've heard a lot about the use. I don't think sale of the building is a very good idea personally anymore. I want Guthrie as a whole to be a wonderful art center, however it takes. And I want Guthrie, the city of Guthrie, to be good stewards, whatever it takes. That's my opinion.
It's historical site and facilities, another reason for the non-sale.
Pardon me?
It's an historical site.
It's a historical site.
Historical sandwich.
The history behind it, it's tells them enough about, I have it here.
What, a historical site you can't tear down, but can you sell?
I don't recommend that.
No. No, I'm not, I'm just saying, isn't this, you-
So they've already torn it down. Before, that got torn down. But I'm saying because of the historical values they have. No, it isn't. What it's been for, I think
Yeah.
we need to look.
Okay.
Buck?
Mr. Dollarhide, can you come up again?
start a weight loss program there and get money.
I live in Guthrie. I've lived in Guthrie 24, 25 years, but I work in Stillwater. And I don't know how many in the room have visited the Multi-Art Center in Stillwater. Has anyone visited that facility? It's an unbelievable facility. I mean, I don't think there's any, there are places like the Firehouse in Norman that's been around for a number of years, but it's an absolutely fabulous facility. And that's something I think we can set our sights on, something very similar to that. One nice thing they have a full-time director because they have enough people that's involved in that. They have a contract with the Stillwater Public Schools, and they bring in $14,000, $16,000 a year just teaching fourth, fifth, and sixth graders about pottery, about painting, about whatever, that sort of thing. So if you haven't visited that, it would be a good idea to visit that. Until Wallace and Evelyn made their presentations, it's kind of one of those things you don't think about it being an historic site. And for that argument alone, you wouldn't want to lose control of the building. Personally, that's the way I feel about that. Now, there are situations where I've been on the other side of the fence of that because I'm a big property rights advocate also. And I don't believe we should be in a position where we ask an individual to take on that responsibility, which at one time I think we tried to do that. Here, it's not that situation. It belongs to the city, and it's owned by the city, it's maintained by the city, and so on. So I think it's important that happen. The Multi-Art Center at Stillwater used to be set up very much the way we're here. It was under the umbrella of Parks and Recreation. Since then, they have actually done away with that, and the center now is operated by what they call Friends of Multi. And they have probably 55 or 60 volunteers that do things. They actually have a board and a board of directors and that sort of thing that overlooks and oversees the entire operation. But they're in a little bit different situation because I don't know what the population of Guthrie is, 15,000?
10,000.
How many?
10.
Well, I'm way ahead of myself then.
Yeah.
So again, you don't have that big a piece of pie to draw from. So they're fortunate in a number of ways because they've got not only the university population, which is 60,000 plus or so, and what they're discovering is that university is almost like a whole other town. They've got fraternities and sororities where 30 or 40 people will show up for a night of decorating mugs, and they'll write them a check for $3,000. So, there are things that can be done. We don't have a university here, but we have some maybe close enough that we could look at those types of things. And I think us as students and as teachers there can look at ways to promote the building. We probably need to think about having an open house at some point in time. We need to think about actually having multi-arts, and I keep bringing up multi-arts in Stillwater. They have a very nice, since they have a full-time director, they have a little sales area, and it's probably 3/4 the size of this room. And that would be a nice thing for us to have there. Right now, there's not space there, but that doesn't mean we couldn't make space. There are ways that we as instructors and as students can help that. And I think we do a very poor job sometimes. Even, like I say, I've been teaching there for 17 years, and it amazes me how many people in Guthrie will call and say, I'm interested in the pottery classes, and I heard you have pottery classes up there. I didn't know you were up there, and we've been there for 17 years. So obviously, we do not do as good a job as we should in getting the word out. Now, once you find someone, it's like in the weaving classes, most of the time, or in the pottery classes, for a person just to go out and get started in pottery on their own, you got a $3,000 kiln, you got a $1,400 wheel, so most of the times, they are very happy to have that facility because for $48 a month, they enroll and that's it. They got to buy their clay and their glazes and stuff, but that's it. So, and I had people, like I mentioned, Bob and Chan Garrett, they saved their money for 8 or 9 years and they have their own little studio. But you never lose those people because those are your ambassadors that will tell someone else when they come over, because they've got a little sales area in their studio, and they say, well, we took pottery classes right here in Guthrie, and the people say, right here in Guthrie? And they say, yeah. So we haven't done the job that we should there, so.
Do you know how their fees compare to the fees that we have at the center?
I'm sorry?
The fees at the Stillwater Center compared to the fees that we have here?
The fees over there vary quite a bit. Bill, the director over there, sometimes he kind of goes on a program of a real reduced fee for for example, I teach over there throughout the year. When I started teaching here in Guthrie, I made a commitment. Most of the people teaching, if they didn't have a minimum of 10 students, then the class didn't develop and the class was canceled. You really can't operate that way. It's like having a restaurant downtown and deciding, well, I think I'll be open this Wednesday. I don't know. You got to have hours that people anticipate you being open and expect you being open. So I made a commitment that it didn't make any difference if I didn't even have any students. I was still going to be up there Thursday night from 6:30 to 9:30 because people drop in up there and say, well, we just, someone told us you had a art center here and we didn't know about it. And we just kind of dropped in to see what you were doing. So I think if you have that and have that kind of commitment from your instructors, because it's not, you don't do it because you're going to make enough money, you're going to retire next year, that sort of thing. You do it because you just, you love being around people and you love teaching whatever you happen to be teaching, whether it's weaving or whatever. I don't, you originally asked me, did I answer your question or did I not answer your question? What did you? Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I do appreciate your time, and we're all into the Art Center. I don't know how many times we refer to it. In fact, I have people from Stillwater. I teach an advanced class there, and I have people from Stillwater that are thinking about coming here just simply because our classes and all are smaller. Most of the time now, usually in a pottery class, 5 to 6 students is what I can pretty much count on a month. Every once in a while, there'll be a few more students than that. But I'll have students that will take, like I say, they'll take classes for 8 or 9 years because they just love to be able to not have to put all that money out and still come to class. We have open studio times that they can come to and work on their own. So we're set up pretty well, and the building functioned for us pretty well. Main thing is just the leak. If we get the leak fixed, I think we can live with everything else. We always want more space, but we can do with what we got.
So Thursday's the main day that you're open, that people can come in. That's the one day a week. Is that correct?
That's just for pottery.
Okay. So every class has a different day.
Yeah.
And is this posted on the building? Are there flyers? Like, if I want to know about this? Okay.
And does it, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Does everyone charge the same, I mean, is the cost of class, it varies? Okay.
Yeah, we try to keep the classes to basically $12 per class. The only thing that'll vary is the supplies. We don't furnish any of the supplies. The students buy those supplies themselves. Now, many times I will buy them because I can buy them, instead of buying a 50-pound bag of clay, I may buy 500 pounds of clay. So, but they either buy it on their own or they buy it through, just reimburse me for what I bought is what it amounts to. Thank you.
Reavers come from as far as Custer City, twice a week, Watonga, Kansas, yeah.
I'm going to have to go down there and look around. Well,
All right.
That's a whole eye-opener.
So I have another question for you. The main repair is the roof, and what the current estimate that you have is?
14,000.
Yes, it's the roof is the main concern. Mold is certainly a concern because we know it's been leaking for quite a while. In fact, it hadn't leaked for a long time because we haven't had rain,
No,
Okay.
have rain.
In all seriousness, that may sound funny, but it's the truth. But yeah, and of course, we didn't look at a built-up roof because you're going to have to take that whole roof off to put another one on. That's there's a lot there, and there's a lot of weight up there.
So you're looking at this rubber-type roof that you have put on the library?
A membrane-type roof. But if you're, and you can do that without tearing everything off because
Right.
they're light.
Right.
But if you go to building it back up,
What's the lifespan or the warranty on that?
oh my gosh. Yeah, the Bell Zone, it was like
20 to 25 years.
20?
We've got
Okay.
that on our building out at
And that's what you are wanting to put on there, and the estimate is?
That's the thought process, 60 to 65,000. I think it was about $60,000.
And yet, his was 20,000.
But a different roof. It was a spray-on.
Different roof. and-
That was
and-
half
and
a
he's
roof.
looking at half a roof, not a full roof. And that other half that perhaps isn't leaking now, probably will leak.
Yeah.
If it isn't this year, it's good, because we had, we have put some money into the roof, not a lot of money, but we have put some money in there, applying a coating of our, a specialized coating or a specialized treatment to try and build that membrane back up again. It's probably 3 inches of foam, and then that liquid membrane is on top of it, so.
I guess my question to the artists is, do you think you can get 1/3 of the 60,000 to get a 25-year roof put on there? Can you generate some money? Can you have bake sales or
Grants,
whatever you got to
fundraising,
do
yeah.
Well,
to help with a portion of that?
it's my understanding that the roof was insured,
Oh,
and there was, some insurance collected for that.
but it was,
And,
I
where's the
have,
money?
I have no idea.
and I'm correct in saying that this is owned by the city of Guthrie, correct?
Right.
It's their building.
Right. It's my understanding that 60 or 65,000, that's several years ago, right? That's not recent? Is that a recent?
The estimate? Yeah, probably
2 years ago.
Okay.
That was when we first had the problem. That was the estimate then. And I don't know how much insurance was collected by the city on it.
Because was it from hail damage or something? I mean, do we know what the leak's from? or-
I would have to research that for you folks. We had one heck of a hailstorm, 3 years ago, and we had just about, we had just about every roof in the city, that was city-owned, that was damaged to some extent. And so, the short answer is yes, we did have damages, and we collected a lot of money for different roofs. Was that one damaged and how much? I can't answer that today, but if I certainly could research it quick enough.
but obviously it wasn't repaired, even though there was money collected.
We did put some money into it because we have
Okay.
put a coating
I'm just-
up on top again of it,
Okay,
so.
okay. So it was used to to repair, just to get by.
We have patched it.
Yeah.
In terms of from the storm to the, last year, the year before when we fixed it, I'd have to research it for you. We have so many roofs and so many pieces, because I also know there are some roofs that we didn't replace. Yes,
Right.
Highland Hall, we replaced. I can tell you Liberty Lake, we elected not to replace, but I'll also tell you, we're replacing Liberty Lake today. So,
I like to know
Yeah.
and
that.
that's another story, I guess, which you've probably already heard some of that, so.
Okay, what are we gonna do?
But I can have that to, Maxine by tomorrow noon, for that matter, on the roofs, money-wise.
But you can do, collect anything, I'm not gonna fix my car up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
Yeah.
so it could be, and it could be like, 3 years ago when they got the estimate, so it could be 80,000, 100,000 by then.
Yep. I think we need more information.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
Let's table it, can we table it, because we've gone about as long as we can go, probably.
I mean, I'd
Table
like
and
to
find out
know
more.
if how much insurance was collected for that building, for the roof, and what a current estimate would be as of today instead of 2 years ago.
Do I have a motion to table?
I will motion that we table this and get more information, and I do realize, though, it's a wonderful building and you all have turned out, and we hope we can come up with something that we can keep that.
I second the motion.
And a second?
That was longer than I was supposed to make it, probably.
That's okay. You're fine. And do I hear a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor of tabling this till the next park board meeting? We will table it and add it. That will be July 17th, my daughter's birthday.
Maybe we could do a fundraiser birthday.
There we go.
Okay.
We don't have to vote. It was tabled. Oh.
Yeah.
All in favor of tabling this?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay.
Okay.
Whew.
Wow, I know, that one was a long one.
Let's see, discussion, number 4, discussion possible action of lake rule changes.
I hope it's not as long.
And thank you all from the
Thank you.
Art Center for joining us tonight.
Anytime you want to visit, just give us a shout.
I'm gonna come by there.
I'm good.
Hi, my name is Anthony Gibbs. I'm the Lake Patrol Officer. I'll be very brief. Just so that you guys, hello again.
Hi.
Scared everybody out?
Absolutely. Just to let you guys know, the reason why we had initially changed from ordinance to, and I know Zach may not have known this, so if I can bring you up to date just very
Great.
briefly. The reason why we had changed to lake rules, the reason why you were hearing this is because we had ordinances set for both lakes for a time. Then we came up with a master plan that's going to unfold and, for many years to come. And because of things changing and being very fluid, we needed to have a document that could change as things were put in place out at the lakes as far as the master plan was concerned. And so instead of having hard and fast ordinances, we have lake rules that we can bring to you guys and have you discuss the changes on that. It worked out very well. Let's see, the March of 2012, which when we first had those rules approved by you, then we had some fishermen come in and say, hey, listen, we really don't like the way that the new hours are working. We were able to change those. These are some rules that we've looked at. Some things have come up, especially concerning the carrying of firearms as far as in a concealed or open carry fashion. And so I needed to bring these to you just for some minor adjustments. There aren't anything major on this, but let me kind of go through that with you. As you see in that chart there, on the left side is the existing rule as it stands now, and then on the right would be how it would be proposed to be changed. That's just a proposal on my part to you and after looking at things. So if I can take you through from the existing rule, it just initially says firearms and fireworks are prohibited as it stands now. What I'd like to do is to change that to put fireworks are prohibited without authorizing documentation from the office of the city manager. That would be for the purpose if we ever had an event out there and we wanted to have a professional fireworks display of some sort or nature. It would give the city manager, the office, the ability just to be able to write a letter authorizing that. And because of the triathlons and the different things that we have out there, it would be, I could foresee it at some point in time in the future happening. Then secondly, I had proposed that instead of prohibiting firearms, because the intent was to prohibit firearms, yes, across the board, but mainly for hunting purposes, just to keep hunters out there from going after deer or whatever. And so what we had proposed changing this to is firearms are prohibited without a valid concealed carry license and accompanying documentation / identification, and then adding hunting is prohibited.
I thought we hunted ducks.
We do, and then that's a specific allowance by ordinance. And
So that, when it says hunting is prohibited, that means except for?
yeah, and this is the thing, the hunting, because by ordinance, it has to be voted on by you on a yearly basis. And so, yes, on a year-by-year basis, it's brought back to you. So with that one exception, the only reason why I wouldn't write it in this document is it has the weight of ordinance, meaning that, ordinance will trump rule, ultimately, if there's an ordinance that proposed it. However, it's looking at things, and I didn't mean to get into that tonight, but with the changes and things that are going to happen this year at Liberty Lake, especially, which is where we're talking about as far as the hunting is concerned, it may be the year that duck hunting goes away, but of course that's up to you guys. I'm going to give you all the documentation and the facts one way or another, and you guys can make that decision. So at any rate, with that said, again, one down that said the existing rule, this talks about fees at the honor box. The main change there, if you look at the right, fees are be paid to, we're going to add attendant. We will be able to put an attendant out there to take money this year, it appears. So we need to add that just to the rule. And then because the fees changed, and it actually really was better, quite frankly, for campers. There's a little bit of clarification in the middle there that adds the camping fee covers the use of the facility for up to 6 persons listed on the permit. And we're changing the vacating time of a campsite from 3:00 p.m. to 11:00 a.m. It's just a minor adjustment. Most people are getting up in the morning, packing and leaving, but we don't, if somebody stays there till 3, there's many times people will arrive on a Saturday by noon trying to set up, and there just are no spots.
I see.
And so, or something like that. It just kind of helps out a little bit. And then one down, it starts out, obey all posted rules. The only change there is we're adding signs. Obey all posted signs, comma, rules, regulations, everything else is the same. From time to time, there'll need to be a sign that's put up for whatever reason, and we'd like to have that in the rules to say that for whatever, if you're needing to close a path, something like that. And then at the last one there in that first rules change, no person other than campers shall enter or remain. We want to remove shall enter. And I can best explain that by just one line below that. It says additions. No entry/re-entry to the park after 10 o'clock p.m. during summer hours and after 8 o'clock p.m. during winter hours. Those kind of go together. Once quiet hours are established at a park, you don't want people driving in, lighting up the place, trying to find a spot, and that includes the fishermen. Now, this shouldn't be an issue with them because as we heard from them, many times they said, hey, we're going to come out, we're going to set up before dark. I might be there all night, I'm not bothering anybody, and that was the main thing that I've seen. They've done a very good job of that. What we're trying to curtail here is that somebody comes out at 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, lights comes in really noisily, lights everything up so they can put up their tent and things, and then it just disturbs the entire campground. So if we keep people from entering or re-entering, meaning that, hey, I'm going to leave and go get a pack of beer and come back, well, I'm sorry, you can't leave after closing time because you drive through all the campsites and wake everybody up again. So that's pretty normal in most campgrounds, but that would be the change there. And then another addition right under that, items, equipment, vehicles, trailers, watercraft, et cetera, left unattended overnight are subject to disposal or impound by city employees. That is obviously a discretionary tool, but there's many times that you'll have somebody that comes out and dumps a trailer. Just literally, I had one the other day that pulled the wheels off of it and just left it there in the parking lot, just because they thought it was broken. Or, things. And most of the time we throw that stuff away. But where this kind of comes into play is that we break up some pretty substantial parties at times. And so what'll happen is that everybody will run off into the woods. And so we leave those cars there. We can red tag them, but we can't really do anything about them for 48 hours. And they're just sitting out there in these spots. And now, that's not necessarily always the case. I'm just kind of trying to give an overview of why we're looking at this. What we'd like to be able to do is the larger ticket items, obviously those are impounds. We're not going to take somebody's vehicle and haul it to the dump. There's rules that we have that govern what we can do. But for instance, there was a boat out there. Somebody had taken a bulldozer and actually bulldozed a path in there. They had no authorization from the city. They literally at some point had driven a dozer down there, dozed a path down to the lake, and then decided they'd leave their little boat. For that person out there, I have your boat. You can come talk to me because I'd really like to talk to you. So at any rate, the deal is that is now impounded. And the thing is that we are, in trying to get a hand over things, this is something that again, we'd like to have just an addition. It's not that we're, you had emergency at the hospital and you weren't there last night, we're going to take all your camping gear and throw it away. That's not what this is about. It's about those other issues that we've discussed.
I saw that bulldozer slot. I thought you guys were putting in some more roads out there.
I was surprised as you were. And so at any rate, and then the last thing there is just eliminations. This is actually something that is very beneficial. It says day use permit holders are not allowed to swim in the designated camping areas. That's the way it's listed now. What I found is that someone will go out there and they'll purchase a campsite and they'll invite family members to come out, and they would like for them to kind of hang out there with them during the day use hours, and then for the kids to swim right there off the campsite. Right now, if you have a day use permit, technically you're not supposed to be in the campsite. However, you can be allowed to be in the campsite by somebody who has a campsite permit and then swim in that area. So that's why I'd just like to strike that. It's just, again, something that we found that we're just going to, hopefully when we get to the end of this process, we'll be boiled down to a document that we can put into ordinance that'll be golden, because we know it's tried and true. It's worked really well for us in the past years. So is there any questions? I know I went over that really quickly, and I didn't mean just to fly through, but I know we're here a little late, and I didn't want to be the person to hold us up longer.
Well, you did really good.
Good deal. And I'll leave you guys to discuss it. If you have any questions, I'll come back up.
Yes. Hi.
Hello, my name is David Sully. Recently, I was just looking for a place to camp with my children. And so I went on the city website to see if, to just look at the rules, see what the fees were and such. And I came across that rule about the no firearms. And I was sort of taken back because, if you have a concealed carry license, that is inconsistent with state law. State law allows for carry on city property as long as it's not a building. Personally, I'd like to see that stricken out completely, because if you are carrying a firearm out there and you're not licensed, you are already breaking the law. So I don't see why you need a rule for it.
So the thing that says firearms are, if we changed it, firearms are prohibited without a valid concealed carry license and accompanying documentation. Does that sound right to you?
That's correct. If it's, it just depends on what the intent is. Is it the intent to prevent general carry, for everybody, whether if you're legally or illegally, So what's the intent of the city? Is it to prevent all firearms, or is it to prevent, people without a license?
Well, I think,
Sir, can you answer some of those? I appreciate you bringing it up.
Right. If it's the intent to prevent, target shootings, such, maybe that could be added in there, but.
Okay.
And I will say, what was your name again, sir?
David.
David, we're on the same page. I tell you, we're agreeing with what it is that he said. I'm just going to say me personally, I like it when somebody's carrying a firearm with a concealed carry license. I mean, they've gone through a lot of hoops to be able to do that, and they can defend themselves, and I personally like it. From a police officer standpoint, I think that if many people can get a concealed carry license, go ahead and do it. Love it. But with, and I know I've got people that may disagree with that, in fact, other officers, but so that's a personal feeling on that. However, in going over this with the city and with the chief and things, the reason why we'd actually put in there firearms are prohibited without that particular deal, which means that open carry and concealed carry would be, again, applicable in the park. They could. You can, like he'd said, with, say we have a store out there, we could put a sticker on the door that say no concealed carry. It's possible to do that if we chose to. A lot of city buildings have that. However, the intent of still saying firearms are prohibited, one is you want to make it known. Two is that if I drive down to where a hunter is or somebody that's illegally hunting, and they're standing by their truck full camo or whatever, and they're looking at me like, well, what, I wasn't hunting, and they've got their rifle in the back seat. Okay, I know what happened, but I didn't see him hunting. See, because I can stand there, I can hear a vehicle coming from half a mile away. If I'm sitting there all quiet and just listening and things. But when I get down there and say, well, your rifle's out here, it shouldn't have been here. Its firearms are prohibited in the park, and things. And so it's what purposes, unless you have a valid concealed carry license and we're carrying according to that. And so it's for certain instances, and plus to have it in rules listed out, say, listen, because a lot of people will still read through here and, man, it didn't say anything about my concealed carry. Can I carry with, my firearm there if I'm carrying it legally with my concealed carry license? And then that actually accompanies that. So if you are looking online, it tells you, yes, I can, if they didn't go through the trouble like he did, to research that out. So we're on board with them, and that was the clarification I was adding, the reason why it's actually listed in there, prohibiting firearms other than concealed carry.
Okay, thank you. Hello.
Hi. My name's Rodney Clark. I've lived here about 15 years, and I'm so glad that the lake officer here has come forward with these things, because I just recently started fishing. I'm not very good, and my neighbor over here will verify that. But there's one thing in the brochure that I would like some clarification on, and it says you're only allowed 3 poles. And my question is that in the water?
3 lines in the water at one time, yes.
Okay, because sometimes I go out and go catfishing, and I got those rigged up, and then the other way up, I'm crappie fishing. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to be of help. Well, this has made it pretty clear. Discussion and possible action of lake rule changes. What do you guys think? It looks, do I hear a?
Motion to approve the changed rules?
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Well, thank you very much. Staff report, number 5 is the next one.
I have nothing tonight. I don't know if Jason has anything or not.
I have nothing.
Well, drum roll, we're getting ready for number 6, adjourn. Yay.